Part of our desire in actually bringing our different fields of specialization together, Fonna Forman being a political theorist and myself an architect and urban researcher, is precisely to expand the role of design in today's crisis across any imaginable register, from environmental to economic to political, ultimately a cultural crisis. We many times say that our crisis is a crisis of the institutions, unable to reimagine their own protocols, their own processes. So when we expand the role of the architect and the designer, we are talking about not only obviously designing objects or buildings, which we must continue nevertheless, but also entering into the realm of designing political and civic processes. Why not to say designing rights of access to democratize development and the many other domains that have been absent in our conversations as architects today. Besides expanding the role of design to intervene into economic pro forma, into the reorganization of public policy, into the formation of new tools or strategies for community participation, I think that some of our practices are taking the role of mediators and facilitators of new interfaces between top-down resources and bottom-up agency and capabilities. That has been essential in the project that we have been developing in our university, where we have been facilitators of a new platform of reciprocal knowledge production that we call the UCSD community stations, which are field stations in marginalized neighborhoods across the border, where education and research is conducted collaboratively with community partners.
And one of our key agendas is to help students learn the tools necessary for communicating across disciplinary barriers and disciplinary languages. Universities are divided up into little fiefdoms, little silos. And oftentimes, as students professionalize and progress in their degrees, they lose the ability to see the place of their discipline within a larger structure of disciplines. So all of the programs that we lead are really teaching students to be the innovators, to be the change makers in the next generation. People will have to learn how to solve problems that are multifaceted. Problems of poverty, inequality cannot be solved by one discipline alone, even though universities are structured that way. It's been difficult at times to convince the university that working with marginalized communities is something other than charity or humanitarian assistance. Universities often see themselves in a vertical relation, particularly with marginalized communities, that we have all of the knowledge and resources and the communities are sort of empty vessels waiting to be filled with our knowledge. We've been working very hard to tip that relationship to a horizontal plane, where the university and community are partnering in the production of new knowledge and solutions to persistent problems. So one thing that we've been able to bring to the partnership is the ability to help communities leverage university resources to become developers of their own projects. So it's not about the university coming to the rescue. It's about empowering communities and using resources that the university has to leverage new opportunities on the ground. So we've been developing, in partnership with a community along the border, for example, a mixed-use housing project. And it's the university that's been able to leverage resources for the community to develop its own work. So it's a fantastic model.
Obviously, one major provocation that we have given ourselves and to our students is that the most important site of intervention is our own practices, how we reorganize our own procedures, as we expand our role. For example, if we are trying to really tackle the issue of housing crisis or housing affordability, we cannot solve it by just designing buildings. We would have to intervene in the reorganization of financial and public policy constructs. In other words, can we intervene in the business plan of the developer and reorganize the pro forma that really determines how a project should operate? So we've been talking about how architects can become developers of their own work by stealing and sort of appropriating the knowledge of the developer. Also, when we think of public space in the projects that we do with our partners across the border region, we are not talking about public space being designed just as a space of neutrality or leisure or beautification. We are talking about public space that can be injected with tools and infrastructures that are flexible and smart enough to increase the capacity of communities for political and climate action. So it's about a pedagogical project, intervening into new forms of education and research, which at the end of the day, they need a kind of design strategic thinking.